Hi, I'm Mansi, a growth marketer at Meritto. I welcome you all to this edition of Education Circuit by Meritto, where we host experts, thought leaders, and decision makers from across the global education ecosystem. And in this series, we dive deep into the latest insights, emerging trends, and proven best practices that are shaping the future of education. Over the past sessions, we have the privilege of hosting incredible voices from institutions like Clark and Plata University, Raffles University, De Montfort University, Help University, Asia Pacific University, and many more. Today promises to be just as insightful. And for those who don't know, Meritto is the global standard in the enrollment technology for colleges and universities. We believe that admission teams shouldn't have to navigate complex systems or struggle with outdated tools in an AI driven world where speed and precision are essential. That's why Meritto stands out with a purpose built solution designed for admission professionals with its intuitive interface, robust data architecture, and AI driven automation. It empowers institutions to recruit smarter, engage students more effectively, and streamline the entire admission journey. And today, we are honored to be joined by Professor Rick Bennett, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Vice President at British University, Vietnam. He brings deep leadership experience in transnational higher education, institutional strategy, and building globally trusted academic environments. At his university, he plays a key role in shaping the university's long term direction, strengthening international partnerships, and ensuring academic quality through globally aligned standards. British University Vietnam has achieved remarkable recognition, becoming Vietnam's first overall QS 5-star university and the first QA aggregated university in Southeast Asia. His experience building, sustaining international academic models makes his perspective especially valuable for senior leaders looking to understand how institutions can expand globally while maintaining credibility and academic integrity. Dear sir, it's truly a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Menzi. Lovely to be with you and with the your viewers. No, it's a lot. You said a lot of important things there in your introduction. Key word being, and we'll probably talk about this word a lot. The key word being quality. But yes, I'm happy to sort of talk you through my experiences and et cetera, over the next half an hour or three quarters of an hour, and hopefully that will be insightful to some of your viewers.
And joining us with a truly global perspective is Shahbaz Siddiqui, Director of International Business at Meritto. With over a decade of experience in education technology, Shahbaz has worked with more than 1,000 institutions across the UAE and Malaysia, helping them drive meaningful enrollment growth through a technology that's built for execution, not complexity. He has played a key role in making Meritto the go-to platform for institutions aiming to simplify their student enrollment processes and scale faster. And today, he's here to help us connect strategy to implementation. Hi, Shabazz.
Hi, Mansi. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Professor Rick.
And,
Hello, hi. How are you, Shabazz?
I'm doing good, sir. Thanks for asking.
Mm.
and I could be more excited to dive into a power packed discussion around a topic that's becoming a strategic imperative for every institution transnational education that wins student trust and global demand. And we have got the perfect duo to unpack both strategy and execution. So let's just begin. As transnational education expands across the region, delivering international degree abroad is no longer the only challenge. Institutions must now ensure that academic standards, governance structures, student experience, and international partnership remain aligned across the borders. Because in cross-border education, credibility is not built through branding alone. It's built through consistent delivery and institution alignment. So my first question to you, sir, is transnational education has expanded rapidly across Southeast Asia over the past decade. From your perspective, what has fundamentally changed in how students evaluate international degrees delivered outside their home countries?
Okay, yeah, great question. So let me put a bit of context in. I've been in Vietnam for 11 years. I was previously in Australia. I'm English. I was born in the UK, but I moved to Australia when I was about 28. And I worked for a big university there for 25 years. I was at the University of New South Wales, which is a big global QS sort of power horse kind of thing. Then I moved to Vietnam. I was asked to come and join to lead the design school at an Australian university. So in Vietnam there is an Australian university which offers Australian degrees, and we are the British university when we offer British degrees. So that's the context. So I can very much talk to you about all my experiences in Vietnam and things that I've come across whilst traveling in the region in Southeast Asia. But I do stress it's very much a Vietnamese perspective, which will probably be applicable to other countries as well. But there are other countries such as Malaysia and China who have got quite large foreign campuses, built campuses in their countries, and they may have a different experience. But from a Vietnamese perspective, the last 10 years has changed quite a lot. The university I used to work for, the Australian University, was the first in the country. We don't have that many purpose-built universities in this country who are foreign. There's only two or three. Whereas other countries, there's a lot and fast changing. I mean, I know that India, a lot of UK universities are starting to plan their physical campus in India, and there's ones in China and ones in Malaysia, etc., and Indonesia. So in Vietnam, we're sort of we're one of a few. However, what's changing a lot is the number of UK degrees, and I'm not going to talk about Australian, American, Canadian, or anyone else. I'm only talking about British degrees because that's all I can safely talk with experience about. From probably 10 different degrees being offered in this country to somewhere to about 150 now. So there's a great deal of option. Now, I'll talk about that a little bit later because when we talk about risks and stuff, I'll talk about that. I'll bring that up again. But that's the context we're in. Now, at our university, we offer about 25 different degrees across business school, creative school, and computing school. So that's the context. So what's changed? Well, it used to be a very privileged and fashionable thing for Vietnamese families to send their sons or daughters overseas. First choice was the US, second choice was the UK, closely followed by Australia and Canada. So they're the big four. People talk about the big four. So that was obviously up until maybe a year or two ago, that was still the trend. Although what's evolving as the Vietnamese middle class grows and international education has gone from being, how can I call it, a curiosity that people looked in and looked at perhaps what was it about, to something that is far more regulatory and far more credible now. But there's still that option of do I go overseas and study at an overseas university, or do I now take one of these transnational options which exist in a country like Vietnam? So the perspective of the parent is changing. The perspective of the student is changing. Recent geopolitics is definitely changing things. And so from a sort of 3 or 4 years ago sort of thing, I've noticed a trend towards families perhaps saving their hard-earned money. Instead of sending students outside to do a undergraduate degree, they'll save it for the postgraduate degree. So if they want to do an international education, there's far more it's far more favorable for places like us to capture the undergraduate market. However, the last year, 6 months in particular, has seen even a move away from those four, the traditional big four, into what is being talked about in Asia now as the new 20, which is lots of smaller countries. Well, the Japans, the Koreas, Singapore, definitely, they're the main three. Malaysia, of course, sorry, they're in the main three. Indonesia, Thailand, and then suddenly more and more countries are springing up. So, in answer to your question, how are students changing their perspective? They're looking at a different market, and they're looking at a different level of if they do go overseas, they're going to do it later rather than earlier. And also, in this sort of slightly unpredictable world, um, families are less likely to send their kids away for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So the sort of stay at home and stay local aspect is very much part of it. And what's changed from a government point of view to reflect that is that the government is actually now actively trying to seek international expertise, both in universities and degrees coming in, but also in attracting people like myself, expat staff who would have usually come on their own accord before, but are being sought quite proactively. And so the other thing is transnational education in a country like Vietnam. They're seeing it as a great contributor to the national agenda, and the national agenda is mostly about human capital. It's about developing new skilled people with great thought leadership to generate new industries into the future. So not only has the student changed, not only has the offering changed, but the way that a country like Vietnam perceives transnational education has very much changed as well. So hopefully that talks to you a little bit about change.
That's a very important shift you have highlighted, sir. It clearly shows how transnational education is being looked at around its credibility and how students are looking closely at different markets, better learning outcomes, and better career paths. So, Shabaz, building on that point, when universities expand into new international markets, so where do institutions most often struggle when managing cross-border student recruitment and engagement?
Sure, Mansi. So, in my opinion, when universities expand into international markets, the biggest challenges is usually managing the complexities of the student journeys across geographies. Like Dr. Rick said, you have got your institutions there, but you're getting local students as well as, let's say, students from the neighboring countries. So, your teams are working across geographies. They often deal with multiple lead sources, agents, right? Because some of the countries might not have their domestic population, like Singapore, where students are coming from across the Southeast Asia or let's say other geographies. So they are dealing with agents, they are dealing with different marketing campaigns, different communication channels based on geographies, which might vary. And all of these are operating in different time zones and regulatory environments. So what we often see is that student data becomes scattered across different point solutions or spreadsheets. Just to give you an example, let's say if I'm a candidate, I'll come to the website of a particular organization, put my inquiry there. Then I'll go onto Google and search about that organization and find their Facebook or Google ad. I'll put my inquiry there as well. Third day, I might meet them in an education fair, right? So I put my inquiry in 3 places, and these 3 places from where I've shown my intent are being captured in different spreadsheets or different point solutions, which are not coordinating with each other. Another important problem that any organization faces responses to the particular candidates or students quickly and in a hyper personalized manner. That is also a very important aspect as the generation is changing. Since we are moving into the generation of AI, everyone wants to have the information on the tip of their fingers, right? So if they're not getting the information, right, they might go into different places to get the information. So it's very important that you are having a system or solution that is answering the queries of the particular candidates on runtime basis, or at least giving them the direction of the queries. If if your teams are not working in a single system and working in silos, then the student is getting different information. So in the example that I've stated, I'll come to the website, I'll get a different information. When I put my inquiry on Facebook, Google, I'm still waiting that when I'll receive, let's say, a call, if applicable in that geography, or an email from that particular counselor who's going to guide me like what I should do to take enrollment in that particular organization. When I'm meeting in an offline event, I'm getting a different set of information altogether. So are we giving unified information, right, in a hyper personalized manner? That is also important, right? So this is also one more important aspect that I think, and this also leads to risk of losing the students to other universities, competitors, or maybe not creating a brand name for that particular organization because we are not using a tech stack that is providing a relevant information. This is where I think a unified enrollment platform where all the places from where the student is showing intent is getting centralized, there are no duplicate records. Your team will get to know, okay, this is the same student is inquired on, let's say, 4 or 5 platforms. and is seeking the information. And then how we are having a system that can communicate, let's say, in multilingual languages, right? And if it's in, like Dr. Rick said, right, you're getting some expat student, some domestic student. So the value proposition is also different for different students, right? Different students coming for a same program might be seeking different value propositions. Some are seeking placements, some are seeking, what type of research is happening, what is the quality of the faculty member, what type of facilities are available. So are we having a system that is able to cater to that particular information, right? So if you're having a unified enrollment platform, right, it becomes critical, and it allows institutions to centralize lead and give an hyper personalized nurturing. So this is a major, often struggle or challenge that you can say whenever organization is going, cross border in terms of student recruitment and engagement that I have experienced in my, tenure with Meritto and working across, let's say, 15 plus countries in Southeast Asia.
That's a very interesting perspective, Shabaz. It really highlights how managing the international student journey becomes more complex as institutions scale across multiple markets, and how students' value propositions are different, and how uniformity plays a key role at different student points. So, my next question to you, sir, is if student expectations are evolving, universities can no longer rely only on offering an international degree abroad. From a strategic perspective, what should institutions prioritize when designing a transnational education model today?
Okay, now this is a very pertinent question, and there's two ways of looking at it. There's looking at it from the point of view of the university in the overseas country who is sending the degree to another country, and those also from the perspective of the university receiving that degree and offering it, which is more what the role we play. So this is where things get a little bit perhaps even controversial sometimes. Let's take the decline in the student numbers, the international student numbers, caused by firstly caused by COVID. So if you were an Australian university or a UK university or probably American, everything was going well until then, and then suddenly the borders closed and people couldn't travel anymore, and so people had to stay at home, of course, for a good year or so, year and a half. So international students collapsed. International student numbers in those countries collapsed. Now, I would argue, having experienced UK education in the UK and Australian education in Australia, I'd say that, and I can't talk for America or Canada or anywhere else, but I would say that the 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 treatment of the international student was perhaps not as good as what it should have been compared to the amount of fees that they were paying. And so I think that those countries got rather complacent on the student experience and the student quality, the education quality that was being offered to them. It was assumed that they were here, so those students would come and get their degrees. So COVID changed everything, and then suddenly people stayed at home, and places like what we were doing at the time, transnational education, boomed because suddenly where's the best that they can do in their own country? Well, it's maybe going to an international university. So that's what happened, and student numbers really boomed into those times. So what's happening now in countries, particularly like the UK, is even to the point where the government is coming out and saying transnational education is the way of the future. Well, that's all well and good as long as they're not trying to mirror an equally, let's say, not high quality experience into other people's countries. So, a rather long-winded answer to your question was, from a strategic perspective, what should institutions prioritize? They should prioritize quality, which will lead to credibility. So you mentioned in your introduction that British University Vietnam, or our university BUV, is the only university in this country to have a QS 5-star award. It's now the second. There is a second one now, but we were the first, and we introduced the QS 5-star to this country. People didn't really understand it, and in fact, to a certain extent, parents in Vietnam are not so QS obsessed as perhaps they are in China. And so it's just a different market. And then we brought the QAA, the British Quality Assurance Agency, over to Vietnam, and they accredited our university and our programs. So we can quite confidently say we are offering a quality education because QS say we are and QAA say we are. And that's expensive to do. And it's also a long process. It's about 18-month process just each time you do that. So we're quite safe to say that what we offer is a good experience and a good quality. However, I did mention there's about 140 degrees, British degrees here in this country. So if we're the only ones to be accredited, what are the others doing? So they are relying on the accreditation of their home institution. And I can tell you that the experience, say, of doing undertaking a degree at a university, I won't name names, but at a university in the UK, compared to the same degree being offered perhaps in a country like Vietnam or wherever, could well be very, very different, you know. And so I think from a strategic perspective, we have to instill quality, which will lead to credibility. The student experience has to be equivalent, if not better, than it would be at the home institution. There needs to be a strong focus on employability because that's the absolute sort of rationale, the absolute reasoning for why parents are spending quite a lot of money on these degrees. Unlike maybe England and Australia and the US, parents here want a return on investment. And so lastly, we're very much focused on practicality over theory. Now, that's to say we don't teach theory, but there needs to be the degrees that have been offered need to be applicable to the workplace, and they need to be up to date, and they need to be immersed in the workplace as much as possible. And you can do that through problem-based learning and through internships, etc., and many industry guests coming in. So a sort of porous wall between the university and the industry workplace. I think those four things would start to lead to a very reputable, kind of credible offering in another country.
That's a very important insight, sir. We have to instill, just like you mentioned, that we have to instill quality that will lead to credibility and how we should provide better student experiences and better career opportunities to our students, and how focusing on practicality is really, really very important as compared to theory. So, Shabazz, my next question to you is, once institutions operate across multiple countries, admissions and marketing and student engagement teams, we observe that teams often work in silos. From your perspective, how important is that internal alignment between these teams to ensure that that they provide better international student journeys?
So definitely internal alignment between admissions, marketing, student engagement teams is absolutely critical when managing international recruitment. Each of these teams are interacting with students at different stages of the journey of a particular prospect. Marketing, who are creating the awareness about the brand, are the first one to interact when they are showcasing certain advertisements or value proposition to the particular prospects. Once the lead comes, the next part is the admissions team or the recruitment team who are counseling or guiding the particular prospect, like what is going to be the experience, what is the value proposition of the course, like Dr. Rick also mentioned, ROI of the program when it comes to certain countries, right? What is the value proposition that they're going to get, whether it could be based on placements, based on the value of the degree, right, that they're going to get, or value in terms of their career as well, right? And then engagement team parallel is also nurturing the candidate, right? So all of these teams, if they are not working in a singular way and are working in silos, it definitely impacts the student experience. For example, assume a student has put up an inquiry saying that my degree is, let's say, QS ranked, right? And the moment the admission team is interacting with them, they have never touched the QS ranking perspective through which I have put up my particular inquiry. All right, they're just talking about we have a good lab, this, that, right? So the communication is breaking there. And imagine on top of it, if the student engagement team is sending some information related to something else altogether, let's say some scholarships and all, which might not be relevant at all, right, for that particular prospect or based on the program that they have inquired. So this hampers the student experience, right? And imagine if it's a student who wants to pursue, let's say, degree in technology, let's say computer science, and they will always judge, or they'll see that, okay, this institute, what they're gonna teach me in computer science, that they're not even using a up-to-date
Mhm.
system, right? Plus, student experience is very important because you're talking about a brand building, right? Whether it's a local brand or could be a global brand as well, right? So when the word of mouth will spread, even if one student is not taking the admission in your organization, but if he or she can tell, okay, the counseling that I've received from Dr. Rick, was something that has changed my life or given me a new perspective, right? That's where your brand building happens through the word of mouth. So it's also important, right? Whether the admission is happening or not happening, we are giving a better experience to the particular candidates, right? So that's where I think it's very much important when team works on a unified platform where the data is being shared, right? The workflows are automated, right? And all the particular stakeholders related to admissions are delivering the same set of information in a hyper personalized manner. That's where the experience of the candidate becomes enhanced, and that's where the brand building picks up. And I think that's where the recruitment will happen automatically for the particular candidates. So that's why it's important that all these teams are not working in silos, rather they are working as a unified. So these are all, if wheels of a same car. So if they are not rotating in the same frequency, the car won't move, right? So in order for the car to move ahead at a decent acceleration, all of them has to work together. So that's how the team should work together rather than working in silos, and it will create a better impact for the student journey.
That alignment clearly becomes critical when institutions are managing recruitment and engagement across different markets and systems, and how a unified platform plays a major and critical role in ensuring that better student experiences are delivered. So let's bring this conversation to a real world example. So, sir, when British University Vietnam was building its transnational education model, what were some of the early challenges or decisions that shaped how the university approached international degree delivery in Vietnam?
Yeah, thank you, Manzi. That's another interesting and good question, and it's one that changes all the time, and it's literally changing as we speak. But broadly, so how did we first? What are the challenges? That's a great question. What are the challenges? To gain trust is probably the first one. Is when you're a new business, a new curiosity, a new startup. There's a lot of things that come with a startup, and how long does a university start up? We always talk about probably getting to 5,000 students is a startup period, and that can take anywhere between 5 years and 25 years, depending on how you do things. Price point is a very sort of getting down into the practicalities now, the kind of things that Shahbaz was very much talking about. But price point is a ongoing issue, and it's one that I'm literally dealing with this week and today. Is about where to place our degrees, and where do they fit in your market. So the third point was very much your place in the market, identifying where you are realistically, not necessarily what you aspire to be, because that might not be realistic, but what is your place in the market. So knowing the market is the first thing to do, and then placing yourself where you want to be, and then sort of coming up with your USPs. What is it that you are known for? Once your brand becomes known, what is it known for? And again, I mentioned at the beginning there was only one international university here in 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So that had a jump on the market, and it's become the gold standard. But then people following up from that, what are the differences between them? For example, we offer accredited British education in Vietnam. We're the only people to do that. Now, you might say, Rick, there's 140 degrees you just told us, but none of them are accredited in this country except for our one. So that's number one. So that gains that trust of your market. The second one is that all of our faculty are 100% qualified internationally, overseas. That doesn't mean to say we have no Vietnamese staff. We didn't when I first came here, but we have a ratio of about sort of 80-20, because some of the Vietnamese staff are fantastic. Some of the academic staff are really great in having come through their own universities and then gone overseas to be qualified. And then the third one is that we have an amazing campus. You can see a bit of it in the background here, but it's this wonderful purpose-built campus, which shows, again, gaining trust. It shows to the Vietnamese market that you are here for a long time and you've invested over $100 million into your campus so far. That means you're likely to be around for quite a long time. And not only that, the students have a wonderful experience in that beautiful campus. So I think those are some of the things that we've identified. But a more recent thing has been more and more we're sensing and being told that there is a gap between the skills and the attributes that students have when they graduate compared to what they need to go into industry. There's a gap. And so we also do a program which is called Personal and Social Growth. And more industry and corporates are telling us that they're not so interested in the knowledge that students come to their industries with, or companies. They are interested in the skills they have, but more importantly, they are very much interested in the attitude that the people have. So we very much concentrate a lot on personal growth, so that you've got the best possible chance of finding employment when you're up against 10,000 other people with a Bachelor of Commerce. So what separates you from those other people? So half of our university is very much about the academic study side of it, but half of it is about character building and the student experience and how they generate themselves from maybe slightly shy and awkward teenagers into confident and interesting and ethical and hardworking adults. So there's some things in there that we have done over the last 10 years or so to build that point.
That's fascinating, sir. It really highlights how building a successful transnational model is about gaining trust, knowing the market, and positioning ourselves in a way that we provide better student experiences.
Mm.
So, Shahbaz, universities today collect large volumes of data across recruitment, applications, and student engagement. But when programs operate across multiple countries, how does fragmented visibility affect leadership decision making?
Absolutely. So when institutions operate across multiple countries, leadership often struggles with fragmented visibility into recruitment performance. Right? Data may exist into different platforms for different stakeholders related to the enrollment process. And often we have seen leadership team, rather than formulating strategies, getting to work into day-to-day tasks and doing hand-holding of the teams. So rather than creating strategies and formulating strategies, how we can increase the quality of the students, how we can enhance our marketing things, we are more confined towards operational tasks. That's where the visibility is being lost. So the lack of visibility then slow down the decision makings and make it difficult to allocate budgets or scale recruitment in the right market. So for example, the marketing might say that we have generated this much of data, but when the same thing is being asked from the recruitment team, they'll say these all data that we have got are not eligible, right? Or let's say they are not at all relevant, non-contactable. And then the feedback is being asked from the recruitment team, which again they are sharing from their own silo system, right, into XLS or spreadsheets. Then marketing is optimizing their particular campaigns. So the decision making which needs to be happen, or the leadership team which needs to focus on the quality of students, then get into the loop of handholding both the teams in terms of achieving the operational efficiency. That's why if you're having a unified system that can give you a visibility of what is happening in the entire recruitment funnel, like how many leads have been generated through what channel, what is the quality of the lead. If you're having a system that can tell you the quality of the lead and what is the conversion ratio, if I'm running different, let's say 5 different types of ads on Facebook, right? So which particular ad is giving you what type of candidates, what are the intent of the candidates. So imagine if we are talking about 140 plus degrees. So different programs, different audience might be available on different platforms. Some might be available on TikTok, some on Facebook, some on Google. Maybe you'll find PhD scholars on LinkedIn rather than on Facebook or Google, right? So different audiences are available on different platforms. So if you have a unified system that can let you know, okay, for this particular set of programs, your audience generation, or let's say the intent generation, is happening on this particular platform, and engagement is happening more, let's say, through, if I talk about Southeast Asia, let's say on WhatsApp for that matter, rather than on emails. So the system will tell you the data driven things based on which the leadership can take decisions, rather than falling into the infinite loop of handholding of teams, and falling into the loop of day to day operational tasks and activities. So this is where a good tech stack can give you guidance, and you can focus more on strategies rather than doing day to day operation tasks.
That's a very important point, Shabazz. Without clear visibility across the student journey, it becomes difficult for the leadership teams to make informed decisions, and it also emphasizes how a centralized system or an enrollment platform plays a critical role in overcoming these challenges and making better decisions. So my question to you, next question to you, sir, is student experience a university day to day, not just through its brand. So how do factors like transparency, communication, and student engagement shape confidence in transnational programs?
Well, yes, the student experience, we very much promote the student experience as being something that is, I don't know if it's a uniquely Vietnamese thing or not, but students here in Vietnam really enjoy university life. They don't just come to college, do their class, and go home, which is what happens in sort of maybe countries like Australia. My son was exactly that. He just went and came, did the littles possible, and came home again, which is kind of, missing out on half your opportunities. And also, there's so much going on in a campus life if people are on campus that it's such a vibrant and sort of healthy place to be. So we very much promote the student engagement, whether it be through clubs and societies, whether it be through volunteer programs, a lot of those we do, whether it be through other students helping younger students with their academic work, or whether it's through just be their own personal development and giving themselves the best chance for the future in life. So the student experience is very, we sort of almost promote it as you come here to do two things: the student experience and study. Yeah, so that's something that's very important to us. You talk about communication and transparency. Well, I think the best place to start with being transparent and communicating well is to have a set of values that your university sticks to, or even a vision and a mission, but values in particular. And one thing we've noticed, we have four sets of values here, but the first one is a really important one, and it's simply kindness and respect. And we find that more and more students come back to that word always again: trust, trust, trust. But students trust us because we're telling them that when they're here on campus and when they're with us, they will be treated well, they'll be respected, they won't be bullied by other students, they won't be tormented by social media, as little as we can control that. But the place is a safe and a friendly and supportive and respectful place. And so that things like that, I think, are important to this generation. And we also have a thing we call British University of Vietnam, or BUV. We call it the home of the lion-hearted. Now, anyone who knows anything about sort of British history or English history is, the figurehead of the lion is very much strong in English culture. So the lion-hearted, we say we're the home of the lion-hearted. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have characteristics of our students that we want them to be. We want them to be strategic. We want them to lead. We want them to be resilient, know that things don't always go well, and to pick yourself up when it's not gone so well. We want them to be very caring, and we want them to be courageous, as in taking risks and trying things out. And so those are the kind of communications that we make to parents and to students as well. And we expect that from everybody, not just the students, but the staff as well. So I think in a university, apart from just the brand, I think things are much more important than just the brand. You've got to sort of live your brand. And so our brand being the home of the Lionhearted kind of pervades through everything we do from teaching in classrooms to students being in their football teams and debating societies and swimming clubs and all those sort of things. You know, what a student used to be is very much what it is here now, and we find that they enjoy their student life.
That was a very valuable perspective, sir. So we have some questions by the audience.
Oh, yeah.
So, Professor Rick, how AI age can help transnational learners develop themselves and whether digital age transcend borders. So this is the question by Anna.
So I missed the second one. I got the first one, the AI question. What was the second one?
Second is whether digital age transcend borders.
Okay, transcending borders. Yeah. Look, AI is the hot potato at the moment. It's the one that everyone's talking about. It's the one that I find is quite strange because I find people are a little bit scared of it. Look, here's my take on it, and I can give you this take because 35 years ago I was at the right place at the right time, and I built my academic career on online learning and teaching. And so 35 years ago, I was faced with the same thing in my class when I was in my mid whatever I was 30s or something, and there was a new thing called the internet, and all our students wanted to use the internet to do their projects and their studies, and the universities and the teachers were saying no. Well, the reason they were saying no is because they didn't understand the technology and they thought it was cheating. Now you're hearing exactly the same argument coming around again. AI is just mirroring what happened in the mid 90s. Now, one of what I firmly believe is one of our roles as educators and as university leaders and as university people is that we are using universities to prepare young people for their futures. And that does include work, but it also includes every other facet of their life as well. We're trying to turn them into, good leaders or good people or good workforce. It's about their work, it's about their future work, it's about their future life as well. If we are sending them out into the workplace or into their future life without the skills and the technologies that they are going to need, then we are doing them a massive disservice. There's no way that AI is not going away. It's going to be here forever. And it's just a matter of, right, exactly the same as the internet. How do you use it? How do you use it properly? How do you use it well? How do you use it ethically? How do you use it responsibly? And how do you use it to best solve the problems that you're going to be faced with? And so we're strong believers of AI here at BUV, and we have an assessment scale that was designed here by one of our staff and is now taken off around the world. I think there's over 300 universities in the world now who use this scale, which is a very simple scale. They call it the AI assessment scale, and it's developed by a guy called Mike Perkins and his colleagues. And it starts with 1 and ends with 5. And 1 is you must not use AI for this assessment. And 5 is you can only use AI for this assessment. And then 2, 3, and 4 are various levels of those. And so our students get their projects and they look on it and it will just say 1 to 5 and they know what they're allowed to use. So I think AI is a wonderful thing. It's changing things all the time. It's changing how we offer how we offer programs. One of the things is, for example, in our computing school, we're noticing a dip in enrollments. And I think that's because people no longer want to or need to do a 3-year degree in computer science or whatever. What they'll need to be doing is a 6-month diploma in how AI can help with leadership or how AI can help with the problem that they're particularly facing. So I think it's going to change what we deliver, maybe in terms of programs and lengths of programs in some areas. But that's kind of my take on AI, that we should be working with it and just making sure helping people to use it responsibly and use it effectively. But we're mad if we deny our students that opportunity.
So, Shabazz, we are talking about AI. So, my question to you relating to AI is that as universities introduce AI into the recruitment and engagement workflows, what should leaders be mindful to ensure that these tools improve student experiences?
So
Is that
in my opinion, yeah, Doctor, if you want to answer that.
no, you go right ahead, Shabazz. You're probably better at talking about this than I am.
Sure. So as universities begin introducing AI into the recruitment and engagement workflows, the most important thing that in my opinion, leaders should focus on using AI is to enhance and not to replace the human connection with the students. Right, that's very important, and I think like Dr. Rick has also discussed that AI is a technology just like internet that needs to be used, though it's scaling rapidly as compared to what how internet has scaled, but needs to be adopted at different levels, not just recruitment. Right, AI, in my opinion, can significantly improve efficiency by automating specifically the repetitive tasks, right, such as responding to common inquiries by a particular candidates, right, helping the staff to prioritize the leads based on the intent, right, or communication at scale. So imagine a virtual counselor, right, a personalized GPT sitting at your particular university website that knows everything about your university. So as a candidate, I'll come in and say, hey, this is what I have scored in grade 12 and equivalent or ACL, right? And I want to pursue my master's. My area of interest is, let's say, X. Which particular program is more suitable for me? Right? So it can give me all the right set of information. If again, there is a catch here, AI, as we are talking about, has to be trained, right? So the involvement of human has to be there. It should respond in a way a human should respond, right? Keeping the empathy in mind, right? That what the candidate is seeking, right? It should not be a plain vanilla answer that is already available on the website. Rather, a more hyper personalized information like, hey, Shabazz, I can see this is your area of interest. So, in this area of interest, these are the things that the particular university is providing, and these are the careers that you can pursue, right? And these are the job roles that you can see. And this, they can also, because we are talking about AI, it can also give me the statistics like this particular job role, let's say, is increasing across the globe, right? And based on that, the follow-up questions can be asked by the particular candidate. So again, however, institutions, whenever they're implementing AI has to be implemented very responsibly. Right? This means maintaining transparency, protecting the student data, because we are talking about all the LLMs, and most of the LLMs are predominantly coming from US. And as we know, there is, in the recent news, Claude has declined the surveillance, right? Similarly, there are a lot of cats in AI. So AI as a technology is very powerful, but one must understand the technology, like how it has to be implemented at what scale. So a controlled implementation of AI for automating your repetitive task could be a initial strategy, seeing the current scenario, right? If you are very much protective about your data, there are different LLMs. The problem is that people are not aware about AI. So when we say AI, people already know one or two LLMs, but there are a lot of LLMs, right, that are available in the market. There are LLMs, right, like that you can train within your organization that need not to be interact with the external world, right? So you can get those LLMs that can be deployed for a particular reason. And ultimately, the goal should be always to create a more, responsive, personalized, and supportive student experience. So everything that you are implementing, right? AI, no AI, I think students should be in the heart or the center of that particular technology, not just the teams. That's my opinion, like how you can implement AI. But AI definitely is gonna revolutionize a lot of things, right? It's already doing it at a very large scale. So yeah, but controlled implementation and keeping humans in loop, so that the critical decisions should always involve humans oversight, right? So AI may give the direction to the particular students to apply, but let's say if the final decision has to be taken related to the scholarship or enrollment, I think probably human oversight should be there, so that it's going in the right pace and to the ethical way, right? And
Mm.
your AI should not also hallucinate. So there is something called guardrails. Even if you're using, open AI is how you're controlling it. So you're setting up that, just like we set up the KPIs for our team members, you're setting up the KPIs for your particular AI. These are known as guardrails, like when it should go and interact with the open sources, because you don't want, if your AI will hallucinate, right? So let's say if I'll come and say, how, give me some bad thing about, XYZ university. So AI can give you bad things, but you don't want it to give bad things, right? It should be answered how a counselor will answer that particular query. So that's how responsibly, if you have trained your AI, and if you're implementing it in staged wise, phases, and in a controlled manner with, ultimately involving human in terms of oversights and decision making, I think that's a tool that can, solve a lot of problems for, let's say, a lot of automating a lot of repetitive tasks for any of the organizations, and could be used in a better way.
Mm.
Rixon, do you want to add something?
No, I was just quite respectful of those some very great points in there about working with humans, not replacing them. And I do like the term about having AI not hallucinate. That's a lovely term. Yeah.
That's a very thoughtful perspective.
Mm.
Technology can certainly enhance efficiency, but it needs careful implementation to ensure it strengthens the student journey rather than complicating it.
Mm.
So my next question to you, Rixer, is as more institutions explore transnational education, where do you see the greatest risk emerging today? Is it academic integrity, partner alignment,
Mm.
operation execution, or managing evolving student expectations?
Okay, so yeah, it's a nice place to sort of round up to here is sort of where might things go relating to transnational education. Um, I think we keep coming back to those same words of trust and quality and credibility. Um, and I think that there's a shift in mindset um, from sort of just scaling up and obsessing with numbers to being sustainably grounded in quality. Um, to a point that I would suggest, and we've proposed this here, that we develop something that we call a triple quality framework, which is if you're engaging in transnational education overseas, if you're the institution sending it overseas, or you're the institution overseas who is offering it, there should be a triple quality framework. In the same way that we credit through THE or through QS, we accredit universities or we rank them and give them scores. In terms of a triple quality framework, I believe that a degree from a university overseas, a transnational degree, should have local accreditation or recognition. And so, in our case, the Vietnamese government and the Ministry of Education and Training has come in and granted approval for our degrees to be offered through their quality assurance. That happens. It should also be done at a national level, which is the national level of the place where it's come from. So in our case, the UK, which is why we got all of our programs through the QAA quality assurance. So therefore, we've got local and national. And it should also have international recognition as well, whether that be through QS or whether it be through AACSB or one of the many sort of many international sort of accreditors or recognition bodies. That would be what we call the necessary conditions of any transnational education offering. But I'd also add to that there should be an aspirational criteria as well, which should be about the contribution your degree or your university offering it is having to the country where it's being placed. So, for example, if a college in the UK was sending a degree to somewhere in India, not only would it be accredited and recognised at the Indian level, but also the UK level and also international. But the the benefit of having that program in the country should benefit India in your case. So it should be, yes, of course, your graduating students and those Indian students will benefit the country. But what are you contributing in terms of resources, in terms of investment, in terms of contribution to the community, to the growth of the society, or the growth of the country's designated, strategic goals for the next 10 or 20 years. So there should be a benefit to the country where it's being hosted. And what that will do, in my view, is stop any tendency for international providers to come into a country, benefit greatly from the fees, and take those fees out again. And so all they're doing is the reverse of what they used to do when they were attracting international students to their country, which was maybe not treat them as well as perhaps they deserve to be and they were paying for. And I just hate to see a reverse of that happen. And you have a saturation of transnational education, which is just a kind of money grab from some of the powerful countries and powerful universities. If they can prove that the offering in that country is really good quality and the same, if not better than the home institution, but also that they are contributing to the growth of that country that they're in, then I'm good for that. But that's something that I think should be a given in the future for people doing transnational education.
That's a very important insight, sir. So we have another question by the audience for you, sir. So what is your specific theoretical method for AI age? Meaning, how can we embed AI in our learning practices or learning experiences for the students?
Is that to me or to Shabazz?
To you, sir.
Yeah. Look, again, I'm not as near the classroom as I used to be, and I'm not as near AI technology I used to be. I'm older, so I'm not the sort of person that's most au fait with it. But I do notice that in our classrooms, it should be embedded in our classroom. Now, there's many. Every day there's new programs coming out that can enhance that learning, whether it be through setting projects, whether it be certainly through marking projects. I noticed that marking has always been a great bane of academic life. Now, if AI can help with assessing and marking and do much better feedback and much more quality feedback, that's certainly a way. Shabazz has also talked about the practicalities of things like enrollments, things like students' admissions into a university, their progressions from year to year. We have one here, for example. We have what we call Campus Central app, which students and parents have on their phones, which is AI driven. And now they can access as much information as the parents can look at their information of their kids, see what's going on with them, how they're getting on at school. Now, those are just practicalities. But when you get into running projects with AI embedded within them, and getting industry to come in and say, well, this is how we're using it, and we want you to be ready for us when you come in. So you need to use these in their projects. There's very much, embed as much of it as you can. And I think Shabazz made a great point there that he said, but it's the human that's got to help the student navigate in the classroom as to what is not only a practical use of it, but also a responsible use of it and an ethical use of it. And then suddenly, and also how to ask it questions to generate the best answers that you want, not just, it's that whole thing of you put something in ChatGPT and just ask it one line, it will give you a whole load of stuff. But if you start to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, you can really get it to the point where it's answering you responsibly with really, really important and fast information. So there's many, many levels across a university you can embed it. And I think I've heard of some instances in the UK where universities are kind of moving away from it for fear of what some people might say. Well, that might be the minority. That's a very risky place to be. So there's many areas from administration through to actually in the classroom, through to marking, through to feedback, where AI can be really used in a powerful way.
So, Shabazz, what's your take on this?
I absolutely agree with Dr. Rick, and in fact, you have to look at how you will be using that particular AI. So, for example, one example that will come on top of my mind is that 2014 Nobel Prize, if we talk about, right, has gone to Demis, Hassabis. And those of you who don't know Demis Hassabis, right, is, one of the key figures in Google DeepMind, right? So how they have used AI. AI could have been used. So, but when they sold their AI to Google DeepMind, right? They have one condition, that it should be used for the betterment of humanity, right? And if you read about them, right, what they have done, for what they have got, Nobel Prize is for predicting the proteins, right? Just to let you know, proteins are very, small part of cells based on which cancer and other, diseases are being detected. So imagine someone who is not coming from a, biology or biotech background. He is getting a Nobel Prize, in predicting the proteins. So imagine the power of AI, how it is equipping and opening up the horizons for any human to enhance their potential or capability, right? Even I'm not, let's say, if I'm not from that particular field, but still it gives me the flexibility to understand about that field, contribute something in the cross-functional department as well related to any specific organization. You can implement AI in different things. For example, nowadays one of the problem statement could be that we are getting a lot of students from different time zones, and we don't have manpower which is available. So can I create a virtual counselor which is available, let's say, on chat version, maybe on call version, maybe on WhatsApp version, that can answer all the queries of the candidate, at least the first level, and then finally it can pass on the ball to the humans where they can give the final answer to the particular one. In academics, you can have a co-pilot that might be just noting down what the particular professor has taught in the class, or it could be sending reminders related to your assignments, right? Collection of those particular assignments. And if it's, let's say, some simple assessment that you guys are doing in your particular organizations in multiple choice questions where the answer are already defined, right? So those can be evaluated by the particular AI, and they can give the feedback, but that feedback finally, before floating to the particular student, should be vetted out by a human to see whether it's going in the giving the right message or right feedback that you wanted to give it to. So at different levels you can have different implementation of AI within your organization. It all depends what particular task you want to automate, right? So based on that, you can take those decisions. And like I said, for AI, right, like one should understand or read about AI, right? There are a lot of free courses as well, but I think one should read like what are the different versions, right? Since we all have been using Chat GPT or let's say Claude, so there are different versions that you get, right? So what are the difference between the versions? What does token mean, right? How much it has been trained, right? And when you're implementing it, like I said, guardrails, like how you are controlling it, so that you're defining a specific task to that particular AI. Okay, this is the only task that you have to perform, and then the human is training it so that it is reaching the efficiency. So two things will happen. One, for the repetitive task, right, you're not doing a lot of laborious work. That means your particular employees will have bandwidth to focus more on more strategic tasks rather than, let's say, operational or repetitive tasks, right? So that could be one way of initial implementation of AI. Then gradually it depends. Like for example, if these are the PhD scholars, right, rather than doing the manual task of going through all the particular papers that has been published for last 15 years, maybe I can use AI, right, to compile those particular pointers to get the references for the specific research topic that I'm doing. Might help me to save time. I need not to spend 5 years, 7 years. Rather, I'll be doing more quality research in terms of publishing my paper, because I'll be getting those, particular things readily available for me, right? And but again, it also depends on the accuracy, right? What I'm defining, right? At what level I want to get the, particular references from those research papers, right? So again, all right, there is a very thin line between all those things, but you have to keep those thin lines in mind. But I think technology adoption is something that you cannot ignore, even if you are ignoring or being ignorant. At one point of time, it's gonna come, right? It's something that you cannot just just close your eyes and think, right, like a flamingo, that it will never come, but it's there. right? So yeah, better to adopt it, right? And since we all are from the education industry, it becomes our responsibility that we are adopting it and implementing it in an ethical manner, so that the students who are consuming that AI in that particular fashion are contributing for the betterment of the society, right, rather than doing something which might not be beneficial for the society. So it's just like whether we can use AI for creating a nuclear bomb, or should I use it for creating clean, good energy, right? Both are coming from nuclear fission and fusion. It's all about the perspective and ethical things that we want to do. So yeah, it's something. It's a topic that can go all across. But yeah, that's my point that I wanted to share.
That's a very thoughtful perspective, Shavas. AI clearly has the potential to strengthen institutional systems and provide better student experiences, and how ethical use of AI is very important. So, before we wrap up, I would like to ask both of you a final question. So, I'll start with you, Rick sir.
Yeah.
From a leadership and institutional perspective, what mindset shift do you believe universities must adopt to successfully scale transnational education while maintaining credibility and academic integrity?
Okay. Without repeating what I've said, oh, by the way, before I just go and answer that, let me add something to what Shahbaz just talked about and the whole AI discussion. Let's look at exciting things for education in the future. The majority of our students here in Vietnam are Vietnamese, and they study all their studies in English. And so, there's many people around the world who are doing their studies in a second or third language. AI should be able to, and it will, I reckon, within 6 months to a year, you'll have a little headpiece or like an like your Apple pad thing in your ear, which will just translate for you in real time. So suddenly that whole that whole reliance on IELTS and similar kind of things will be no need anymore. What a wonderful place that will be, that you talk in real time, it translates for you, and you receive in real time and it translates for you. So I think that there are AI tools that do that already, and they're in earpieces. It's just a matter of getting that sophisticated. So I think that things like that are super exciting. Coming back to your point of what was your last point about how to wrap up?
So the question was, as an institutions expand their international recruitment and engagement efforts across market, what is one mindset shift university leader need to embrace to scale these operations while maintaining student trust?
Okay, well, I've repeated the one mindset over and over, which is less about profit and scale and more about quality. But let me take you down a different route as well, which will be a very exciting one. Why do universities only have students who are aged between 17 and 23, apart from a few postgraduates? I think the world is changing, and AI is part of that change. But the world is changing into careers are far more shorter in terms of your. I reckon. I think there was some great research done recently where sort of my age group and our parents' age group would have probably had about 1 to 3 different careers, whereas the current generations and future ones will have somewhere between 20 and 40 different careers in their lifetime. So there'll be far more need and urgency for lifelong learning, which is a term that we talk about, but not many people really engage in it, or not many universities really engage in it. So I think that you could see universities becoming a totally different demographic, but because of the need to retrain all the time, and to as new industries emerge and new startups come back and new technologies emerge, there will be people going back and back and back and back into education. So they'll be learning, and then they'll be relearning, and then relearning again. So I think open the mind to a different type of university with a different cohort and a different demographic is something that's probably going to emerge over the next 5 to 10 years.
What's your take on this, Shavas?
Yeah, absolutely. I concur with what Dr. Rick has said, and just adding on to that point because I've already taken a lot of time. I think one of the most important mindset shift that university leaders need to embrace is maybe moving from, let's say, campaign or sales mindset to the student journey mindset, right? And That will definitely, cover up a lot of things in terms of what we have covered so far, right? It will cover the technology, it will cover the benefit for the society or what they're contributing, making them a better human, right? Sustainability, everything, will get covered in that once we are having a, student journey mindset rather than, just thinking about enrolling volume of students
Yeah.
rather than, quality of students, because I think volume of students is just a byproduct, right? Ivy League
Mm.
colleges, as we see, Stanford, right, Oxford, they just enroll a limited set of students, and we know, where their nice work they contribute to the society. So that should be, the one take where, leaders need to embrace moving forward in future, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Sir and Shabazz, for such a thoughtful and deeply relevant perspective and discussion. So, today's conversation reinforced one important idea. Transnational education is not simply about expanding internationally. It's about building systems that sustain academic integrity, maintaining global standards, and delivering meaningful student outcomes across borders. And how AI plays a major role in improving these student experiences. So, to our audience, thank you so much for joining us today and being part of this session. The session has been recorded, and we will be soon sharing the recording to you in our next email. Your engagement is what makes Education Circuit by Meritto a valuable experience. We hope you have found this session as enriching as we have, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming editions. Until next time, stay inspired, stay strategic, and keep putting students at the center. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Rick, sir, for such a valuable
Thanks.
discussion.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. It's my
Sir.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.